Today we're going to be rating champions on the WWE roster as either overrated or underrated, because we're drawing lines in the sand, baby. We're not sitting on the fence. We're going from one extreme to the other, and I will explain why I'm putting these champions as either overrated or underrated. Because a champion is important, because depending on whether you have a good champion or a bad champion, they can help make or break an entire division. And of course, a champion is vital in terms of helping push stories along on weekly television, and more often than not, they're involved in a climax for that particular storyline at a premium live event. As a disclaimer, this is a video that was made in July, so it's possible that you're watching this somewhere down the line and we don't have the same champions. But as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for a notification. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. Can you believe that? So go ahead and subscribe. This is a wrestling channel through and through. You're gonna like it. Let's start off with Roman Reigns, the current WWE Undisputed Universal Champion. And right off the get-go, I'm gonna go underrated. And let me explain my thought process here, because Roman Reigns has turned what is considered a great WWE champion completely upside down. Before this long Roman Reigns run of over 1,000 days, our measure of what we consider to be one of the greatest WWE champions wasn't about how long the reign was, it was about how many championship title wins they had. Which of course, if they had a lot of title wins, it also meant that they had a lot of title losses. But before Roman Reigns came along, we were always in the conversation of, yeah, 16-time John Cena, 16-time Ric Flair, 14-time Randy Orton, whatever it might be. We were always looking at how many reigns they had as opposed to the quality of the actual reign. And in came Roman Reigns, and he single-handedly was able to bring back an old measure of measuring how great a WWE champion was, which is how long the reign was. We haven't seen a reign of 1,000+ days since the days of Hulk Hogan, since the days of Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales. So really, Roman Reigns has taken apart the last 40 years of professional wrestling and turned it on its head. And to boot, Roman Reigns has a special ability that very, very few people, not even John Cena, has. And that is the ability to elevate everyone that comes into contact with him into main event status. Think about Cena for a second and all of the feuds that he's had, because in many of those feuds, those individuals that initially we thought should have gone to the moon and become main eventers just don't. Think of the likes of Wade Barrett is a great example, R-Truth, RVD. There's a lot of examples of people that feuded with John Cena that were never able to break past the peak of feuding with John Cena. And then after feuding with John Cena, they catapulted back down to the mid card, and in some cases, the bottom of the card. Next, let's look at Roman Reigns. Just about everyone he has feuded with, or everyone that's been involved in a storyline with him, has been elevated to levels that we have never seen them reach before. Look at the likes of Sami Zayn, the likes of Kevin Owens, of course, both of the Usos. We had Solo Sikoa immediately being put as a main event stay, immediately coming out of the Performance Center and out of NXT. That is insane. The fuck, Alexa? Alexa, shut the fuck up. Alexa interrupting my video. Rude. Alexa, be quiet. Gotta be kidding me. Before I was rudely interrupted by Alexa, I was trying to make the point that he helps elevate a lot of people to the main event stage, and they stay there, which is fantastic. It's not something that many previous champions have been able to do with people around him. Let's also talk about how much he has elevated his game from the time of the big dog in the 2010s, because not only is he a much better in-ring competitor, but he is a much better storyteller. His facial expressions just deliver every time he's on the mic, or whenever he's in the ring, whenever he's sitting down on the apron. There is just something about Roman Reigns, his ability to be able to tell a story that is above anyone else at the moment in the WWE. And I still don't believe that it gets enough credit. I think people will immediately look at how long the title reign is, how often he wins, how he has to, for the most part, win with help from the Usos or Solo Sikoa, and say he's an overrated champion. But when we look at the wider picture of the things that Roman Reigns has accomplished and how difficult it is to accomplish those things that he's accomplished, I gotta say he's still underrated. So I'm putting Roman Reigns, believe it or not, as an underrated champion still today in WWE. Next up, we have Asuka, the current WWE Women's Champion. And Asuka may just be one of the most disrespected top main event champions on the roster today. She's currently embroiled in a storyline where she is third fiddle, even though she is the freaking champion. Because all of the screen time, all of the promo time seems to be going towards building up Bianca Belair versus Charlotte, which is most likely going to be this year's WrestleMania main event from the women's division. And all in all, we are tossing Asuka to the side, barely recognizing that she's the champion, barely recognizing that she's the one that Bianca Belair, all for the purpose of building up Bianca Belair versus Charlotte, and neither of them are champions. It's really a shame because Asuka really is fantastic. I don't know why WWE fails to see the superstar potential that Asuka has. Even when they pull the trigger on her, as they did by making her the WWE Women's Champion, they never really truly commit to her. And anytime it looks like they're going to commit to her, they just simply don't. I think a great example is this championship reign, but also it's happened historically, like when she won the Royal Rumble. It's clear to me that WWE has no plans of ever making Asuka really the top face or heel of the women's division. There's always somebody else that the WWE prefers. And I think this storyline of her being the third wheel, even though she's the champion, is the perfect example of everything that I'm saying. And it's a true shame because I really genuinely believe that she's as good and in many cases better than both Bianca Belair and Charlotte. But hey, Bianca Belair and Charlotte, those are the golden eggs of the WWE. Those are the ones that they're always going to promote. And unfortunately, it's going to lead to situations where Asuka becomes the third fiddle. I know what Asuka is capable of. The WWE probably knows as well. They just simply don't care. So she goes into the underrated category. Next up, we have the current World Heavyweight Champion from Monday Night Raw, Seth Rollins, and I'm putting him in overrated. I want to clarify that when I say overrated, I'm not saying Seth Rollins as a whole is overrated. I'm just going to focus on his current championship reign because I do believe that his current championship reign has been mostly underwhelming, so I'm going to put it in the overrated camp. Even though Seth Rollins is one of the greatest in-ring performers that the WWE has, he hasn't really had a banger of a match with anybody. The title match against AJ Styles was underwhelming. The match against Damian Priest was okay at best. The match against Carmelo Hayes, wait, was there a match against Carmelo Hayes? No, sorry, Braun Breaker. Against Braun Breaker, that was fine too. And then there was also the match with Finn Balor at Money in the Bank, which in my opinion was the biggest disappointment of the night. So as a champion, Seth Rollins has not really been able to really help elevate this title to true main event and prestige as we were hoping that he would. I've honestly never been as underwhelmed with Seth Rollins' body of work in the ring as I have during his time as World Heavyweight Champion. I'm not sure if anyone else has noticed this, but I believe that, like, honestly, his best match of the year is the match at WrestleMania against Logan Paul. Anything after that has truly been underwhelming, and I know that he's much better than what he has been portrayed as in ring in the WWE in recent months. But again, who am I to speak? I'm just a dude that is not in the best shape in the world, pretending that he knows a lot about professional wrestling and talking about professional wrestling on camera. I digress though. I just haven't been overly impressed by Seth Rollins, so I'm going to put him into the overrated camp for now. Next up, we have Rhea Ripley, and I'm like really torn because as champion, I want to put her in overrated, but her character work as champion, I still believe that she's underrated. So maybe we can have a conversation about both sides of this coin here, because as champion, she has suffered similarly to Seth Rollins, where she hasn't been properly showcased as a strong, super fantastic in-ring worker as a champion. What's her best match that you can think of ever since she became champion? The match against, I don't know, maybe against Zelina Vega in Puerto Rico? Because aside from that, it's just been nothing but squash matches against Natalya, although they did have a pretty decent match on Monday Night Raw. But really, again, no match where you can say, wow, what a fantastic title reign this has been. It's been underwhelming matches as well as mostly underwhelming feuds, although I did personally enjoy the Zelina Vega stuff, but mostly not because of Rhea Ripley's involvement in the feud, but more so the storyline of the underdog within her home country or region. I know it's not a country, of Puerto Rico. It's a shame because her match against Charlotte at WrestleMania, arguably the best match of the year. Like it's got a really strong case for match of the year. Almost certainly it will go down as the best women's match of the entire year, that's for sure. But then we look at her character work over the last several months and it's been absolutely phenomenal. Arguably, she is the greatest character worker aside from Dominic Mysterio on the entire roster today. Unfortunately, most of that character development and charisma that she has built up over the last several months has been either in backstage promos or it's been with her involvement outside of the ring during the Judgment Day's men's matches. She is an absolute gem as a character worker and psychology. She is a 10 out of 10 in that regard, and I don't think she gets enough credit from that point of view. So if we're talking like character work, character development, Rhea Ripley is still underrated, but this video is about champions and how their championship reign is going, and I just don't think it's been very good. So I guess I'll put it in the overrated category because a lot of people have Rhea Ripley really high in their list of like greatest women's champions of all time, but I just don't think that we have seen enough for her as a champion in the ring, in storylines to really put her there. Honestly, she needs to have that feud with Becky Lynch already. I know that's likely going to be the WrestleMania match, but I think it's Becky Lynch's feud that's really going to bring Rhea Ripley into the limelight again. Next up, we have Gunther, the Ring General. That's right, I say Gunther. I will never say Gunther because that's weird. His name is Gunther, the Ring General. I don't think that it's up for debate anymore. Gunther is the greatest intercontinental champion in WWE history. He may not yet be the longest reigning, but he will be soon enough. And even if he doesn't break the Honky Tonk Man's record, he's a better intercontinental champion than the Honky Tonk Man. We are looking at the greatest, potentially greatest mid-card champion of all time in WWE history. He delivers in the ring time after time after time. 5-star matches, 4-star matches, 4.5-star matches, 6-star matches. This has just become a weekly norm with Gunther. And I will say his promo work earlier in the year and in 2022 was easily the weakest part of his game, but he has continued to improve that to the point where he cuts a very, very believable and very, very genuine heel promo. So really the entire package is starting to come together. I think we're witnessing the renaissance of a future world champion here. But what I want to talk about is the fact that he has not just elevated the Intercontinental Championship to relevance, but he has brought so much relevance to it that world champions are now vying for it. People who are genuine Hall of Famers want Gunther's Intercontinental Championship. Could you imagine if, no disrespect to R-Truth, if he was the Intercontinental Champion? Let's use a more realistic example. Nakamura, when he was Intercontinental Champion, he didn't have former world champions vying for his championship. He didn't have future Hall of Famers trying to take that title off of him. But Gunther has made this championship so prestigious, so relevant, and it can main event any show at any moment that now we are getting world champion caliber superstars wanting to go for the Intercontinental Championship. That says a lot about Gunther's entire reign as a champion. And even though I think all of us generally agree that he's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, I still think that there's a lot more room to grow that legacy. I don't know if saying underrated is really like a hot take or anything. I mean, I guess you can say overrated. You can really go either way, kind of depending on how you look at things, but I still think he's underrated because I don't think that people truly, genuinely, really recognize how important the Intercontinental Championship is now, and it's purely on the back of Gunther, the Ring General. You see the future right in front of your eyes. And then there's the other side of the coin in terms of the mid-card championships, and that is Austin Theory, whose best performance this year is being part of the I be poppin' bottles meme.
I be poppin' bottles. I be poppin' bottles.
Because as a United States champion, he has severely underwhelmed and underperformed. He was given everything to catapult him to the main event. I mean, he was given a WrestleMania match against John Cena where he won. And I still think he came out looking weaker than he did going into the match. Whether it was because John Cena absolutely cooked him in that promo and all it took was one appearance for John Cena to absolutely destroy the facade of Austin Theory, or maybe it was the fact that Austin Theory wasn't given a chance to really rebuttal throughout the weeks leading to WrestleMania Either way, I felt like he was underwhelming at WrestleMania, and he came out weaker than he went in. And after WrestleMania, it's kind of been the same case where he hasn't really developed his character beyond what he had a year ago, and that really isn't anything of much substance. And I don't mind when heels win in cheesy, predictable ways where somebody interferes or, you know, they take advantage of an opportunity, but that's pretty much exclusively how Austin Theory wins matches, and it's difficult to start taking him seriously as a mid-card champion when you do that. And you can make the argument, well, he's a heel, he should be winning like that. Look at Gunther. Gunther doesn't win that way. So I just don't buy the argument that Theory's only method of winning should be that way. So he is going to go into the overrated camp for me, and I don't know how you can fix Austin Theory at this point. I've got a little bit of a hot take. I believe that Grayson Waller is what WWE thought Austin Theory would become. It's just that it's not Austin Theory, it's Grayson Waller. Next up, we have the Undisputed World Tag Team Champions, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. And this is gonna cause a debate, but I'm also putting them into the overrated side of things. I think that they are arguably the most entertaining tag team that we have seen in a very long time. Their dynamic together is fantastic. They're both great on the mic. They're both amazing in-ring workers, but for some unfathomable reason, the WWE refuses to showcase them alongside the rest of the tag team division. They're simply being utilized to help build other main event plots, whether it's having matches with Imperium, the Judgment Day, but for some reason, they seem to always be 6-man tag matches. And honestly, I can count in like one hand the amount of title defenses that they've had since WrestleMania. There's the one at Night of Champions. There's like the one that they had with Pretty Deadly. I think there was a one-off one with the Street Profits and one with the Judgment Day. But almost all of those have been on weekly television as opposed to actually building a storyline, something for us to sink our teeth into, something for us to really care about, and something for us to truly potentially believe that they could lose, because one-off matches against tag teams like Imperium or tag teams like the Street Profits, when there is no story being built alongside of it, we know that Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn are going to win. So I almost don't even count those. And it's a shame because the men's tag team division is absolute fire. If you are recently watching Monday Night Raw, you know that the Viking Raiders are cooking. You know that Alpha Academy is cooking. So there is a lot of great tag teams that they could have genuine feuds with as opposed to just one-off matches. It almost feels, and this is a serious hot take, as if they're holding the tag team division hostage because we have all of these great tag teams that seem to have nothing to vie for because these two only seem to want to play with the big boys as opposed to playing in the tag team division. So as tag team champions, I have not been impressed with the decision to give them the belts. I think it totally made sense, like from a storyline perspective with the bloodline. I really liked everything that they did leading up to them winning the tag team championships. But ever since, like it's been like they refuse to acknowledge that they're a tag team division team and should be facing teams in the tag team division. So I'm going to put them in the overrated camp. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, I don't think are really going to get a fair shake. I still will say they're underrated because they just recently became women's tag team champions and they made the best of an absolute terrible situation where they just kind of got put together because the original tag team idea of Chelsea Green and Carmella wasn't going to be able to work out. So they just got tossed together kind of just last minute, and they've been slowly building themselves up as a very credible tag team, as a very entertaining act on Monday Night Raw. So, I mean, for their character work and all of the work that they've done in ring to elevate themselves to get to the position that they're currently in, I'll say they're underrated. But again, as of the making of this video, they've been champions for one day. Carmelo Hayes, unfortunately, also goes in overrated. It almost feels as if he isn't the NXT men's champion. At least he isn't given the same treatment that Braun Breaker was given during his championship reign, because Carmelo Hayes has routinely taken losses from folks in the main roster that have come down to NXT or when he has gone up to the main roster. So he has been a very unprotected champion, and yet I do believe that he has a lot of hype behind him, understandably so, because I think he's fantastic. I will say Carmelo Hayes is one of the most organically built WWE superstars in several years, where he started very organically at the bottom bottom of the card in NXT and started working his way up NXT North American title until eventually getting into the main event scene. But ever since winning the championship, I've been mostly underwhelmed with his body of work, the decisions that they've made to just consistently give him losses against folks in the main roster. I don't think that's done a great job in helping elevate him as a credible NXT men's champion. So for now, again, as of the making of this video, Carmelo Hayes is going in overrated. But my God, like he is a bright star in the future of the WWE. We're going to see 20 plus years of Carmelo Hayes absolutely not missing. Next up, we have the NXT Women's Champion, Tiffany Stratton. And Tiffany Stratton is, again, one of those organically built WWE superstars that started in NXT 2.0 that everyone hated simply because she was part of that NXT 2.0 wave. But she has demonstrated time and time again that she is a fantastic in-ring performer. She is one of the most improved wrestlers when it comes to in-ring performance that I've seen over the last couple of years. When it comes to being a champion, I think it's still even a little bit too early to really properly be able to rate her. I do believe that overall people see Tiffany Stratton and they just see somebody who's super pretty model and believe that she's not capable of being a fantastic in-ring performer. But what I see is an ultra athlete, because I believe she was USA Gymnastics, who has learned the business of professional wrestling at an incredibly fast rate. And we're going to continue to see more of Tiffany Stratton, and we're all the better for it. So I think this notion that she's just a pretty face needs to go out the window, and we need to recognize that she is a hyper learner, ultra athlete that's going to be on our screens for a very, very long time. Again, still very early on in her championship reign, but I'm going to give Tiffany Stratton the benefit of the doubt, and I'm going to say she's underrated. Wesley is criminally underrated. He is consistently putting on the best match at any NXT Premium Live event that he's booked in. And it's a shame because he doesn't get booked in all of them, and I really believe that he should be. As of the making of this video, he's still NXT North American champion, but it's possible that he loses it to dirty Dominic Mysterio. God, I hope not, but that would also be hilarious. But Wesley has just become one of the most likable baby faces on NXT. His body of work as a singles champion has been fantastic. I love that he was able to transition out of the tag team division and be able to become one of the mainstays of the NXT men's singles division. I need more Wesley on my screen. That's a great indicator that you have an underrated WWE superstar that can do much bigger things. So I'm putting Wesley, even though his parents were lazy and gave him one name and split it in two as opposed to just giving him two names like normal people, I'm going to put him in underrated. And then we have the NXT Tag Team Champions, Gallus. And this is a problematic situation because they are the NXT Tag Team Champions in a time where the NXT division is arguably at its worst it's ever been, because the NXT Tag Team division used to be the main event of NXT, especially during the Black and Gold era, and the NXT Tag Team men's division has been severely underwhelming over the last couple of years, and unfortunately I think Gallus is a great representation of how underwhelming it's been. I think they're absolutely perfectly fine, like aggressively fine. I don't think that they go above and beyond or really ever put on anything super impressive that allows me to be able to say, wow, the men's tag team division in NXT is really strong and thriving. Usually after most of their matches, I walk away thinking the opposite, that, oh my God, what happened to the NXT tag team division? But here's the thing, like, can I really say overrated? Because I don't think anybody believes that they are this fantastic tag team on NXT that's just stealing the show every day. I think everybody, for the most part, is underwhelmed, not just with Gallus, but with the entirety of the men's tag team division. I don't know. I don't know where this puts me. I guess overrated, but I would say that the entirety of the men's tag team division is kind of in that boat, as opposed, except for the Creed brothers. But they're going to be going up to the main roster here very, very soon. And that's it. Feel free to cook me in the comments. Get out of here.